Welcome to Hear Our Story, the podcast where first-generation Palestinian voices take center stage. I'm Elias.
And I'm Janice Farhat.
Together, we're sitting down with family, friends, aunts, uncles, and yes, all your cousins too, so we can share the rich, complex stories of growing up between two worlds, the land that gave us life and the one that lives forever in our hearts.
They are not just our stories. They're stories that will feel familiar, maybe even like your own. So grab some coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into these conversations that are as enlightening as they are entertaining.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we have two guests, brothers actually, who were raised in our Ramallah Club of Jacksonville. They have very interesting histories. Both of their parents served as presidents of the Ramallah Club. Their father as president and their mother as ladies auxiliary president. Each of our guests has served as president of the Ramallah Club, and in addition, each guest has a child that has served as president. And I believe that's the first family to have this legacy. As you can see, the common thread in this introduction is service. We are grateful for their time, their service, and their unwavering commitment to our community, and we welcome Mr. Ed Bateh and Mr. Ed Bateh to this episode of Hear Our Story. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ted, Ed, welcome. Welcome to you both. It's great to have you both. Thank you again. Alex and I always like to start with the basics. Please tell us about your family, your parents, grandparents, and your hamula, please.
Well, our hamula is Dar Ibrahim, and we're from the Bateh clan. Our father is Musa, and our mother is Ed Bateh. Our paternal grandparents are Kastandi and Nerma Bateh, and our maternal grandparents are Yaqub and Nerma Ziyad.
With you both growing up in Jacksonville and essentially in this club, can you each describe some of your earliest memories of the club?
I would say that we were over at the old club, which was on Atlantic Boulevard. It was a huge building, and it had a large lot like a football field or something. Once in a while, we would get marbles and throw it into the big fans that were there. There was no AC for the building, and then you'd have one of the old men come out and say, "Hey, Matami didn't do this, but nobody did that." So we had to move away from that part of it. But on Sundays, we'd always come around. The old men or the older men would be playing ping pong, cards, stuff like that, just playing around. And you couldn't do anything as a younger person. You had to stay outside until they were done. And then once they were done, they'd say, "Okay, come on, you can play a little bit." So we ended up doing that, and we ended up having football games and soccer or whatever we had, But it was a great place to be at, the building.
Yeah, I have some very fond memories of the Ramallah Club, the old Ramallah Club on Atlantic Boulevard. It was actually about a half a mile from the old Regency Square Mall, and it was a 2-lane road, and the house was actually, the building was a house. So you walked in, there was a family room, there was bedrooms, there was a kitchen, and we were active at the picnics. We were active doing things around the club. We had to work and make sure that everything was done right. One of my memories is that before a picnic, myself and my cousin Freddie Bateh had to go to the club and mow the yard, mow the entire lawn.
That was a big piece of property, not to interrupt you, but I remember it being a big piece of property.
It was a big piece of property. We would spend all day up and down cutting the grass. And Hanna Bateh took us there and brought us back and gave us each $10 for the day's work. But we had some very, very good memories of the club.
Wow, that's amazing. What were the expectations, Ted and Ed, both of you, of growing up in a house with immigrant parents, and how did they differ from your American friends?
Well, the expectations were to be friends with your neighborhood kids and invite them over, but you could not have any sleepovers except with your cousins. So we definitely had to be um, busy all the time. We mostly spoke Arabic at home, and we learned English in school. When my older sister Joanne went to school, and she came back and spoke to us in English. So we had to be busy doing something when we were young. If my father came home from a long day at work and we were just laying on the couch, he got upset. He used to come in and say, "What am I raising? A bunch of alligators here? Get up and do something." So we have some good memories. But we were always busy, and both Ed and I worked in the lawn care business, and we worked at Winn-Dixie for years.
And like Teddy said, our parents did expect us to speak Arabic around the house, especially like at dinner time. You know, if you wanted something, you had to ask for it in Arabic. If not, then you didn't eat. You know, so they were happy about that. And then we had some of our American friends come over, and they would play with us and stuff like that. My dad was mainly working 9 to 9, 7 days a week, so we didn't really see him that much until he came home. And my mom would sit over there, and she'd try to speak, English to them, but she had her accent and all. So one time, some of my friends came over, and they were wanting to be scouts. And so they had to come over. There was a church next door to us. And they had to go and work through the church and all. And they ended up like building things around the church and all. And then they would do, at nighttime, they'd build their tents and then they slept over for the next morning. Well, my dad said, if you want to play with them, build stuff, whatever you feel like doing, if you want to build a tent with them, but when it comes to sleeping, come back home. I don't want you out there with all those people. So that's what we did, and we never became scouts.
I think there was a pretty dominant Arabic rule for all families that sleepovers were just a no-go.
Yes.
No go.
No-go.
Moving forward, could you tell us about your education and career and how your family may have influenced those big decisions?
Yeah, I received my BS in business management from the University of North Florida. And I went on to work at Five Star Credit Union. Back then it was called Jack's Navy. Um, and it just really wasn't for me, being a teller and stuff like that. So there was some Palestinian gentlemen that owned a paper company. So they said, yeah, come on over. We could use you in the warehouse and stuff. So I ended up working with them for almost 20 years. And at the time, they had to sell their place. So once they sold the place, then I went into sales with a different company and stuff. And then I worked sales from then for 30 years until I retired. And that's where I got into it. And my parents, every time I wanted to do something, I don't know if they knew that that's not what I wanted to do, or they just didn't want me doing it. Because I would ask to be a policeman, and they said, no, we're not going to have you get shot. I asked to be at the Five Star Credit Union. I was good with the computers, so they asked me to be one of the teachers, but I had to work at night at first to get involved. My mom said, no, we're not going to have you work at night. So they kept deterring me until I finally said, hey, I'm going to work sales. And they go, okay, Habibi, that's good.
They saw your passion in sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Janice, I'm a Florida Gator, and I
There you go.
graduated with a degree in food science and technology. My father was a pharmacist, and I originally thought that is what I wanted to do. But then my cousin and mentor, rest in peace, Brother Yusuf Farhat, told me about his education in food science. And after researching the field further, I decided that was going to be my major. I started out working with the Coca-Cola company, Minute Maid division, developing powdered drink mixes and juice blends and 100% juice products under the High C and the Minute Maid brand. And then I had an opportunity to move back to Jacksonville. I was living in Orlando, and I came back and started working with Bacardi Martini product development. So my entire 40-year career was in the beverage product development arena. And I'm proud to say that some of my developments are still in the market today. So if you go to Nassau, Bahamas, or the islands, there's 2 soft drinks there that I developed, Goombay Punch and Goombay Fruit Champagne, which are still being sold there.
Wow.
That's incredible, Ted.
I tell you what was really nice with Ted making all these samples and stuff. He would bring over the testing
Oh, yeah.
for us to do all the testing for him.
Yeah.
And we'd say, no, this isn't good. This one's good.
Need to try this one again.
Right.
Yeah.
This needs more of this,
Yeah.
or this needs more of that.
Get a
Exactly.
grape from Africa or something, you know.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's great. Thank you. And well, of course, as we noted earlier, we spoke of course, of your family's history of service. Did you take the experiences of your parents' service here at the club and use it when you both served as president? And did you pass it on to your children when both of your sons served?
Absolutely. Service to the club was instilled in us from the beginning. We were expected to work at the club, help with fundraisers, clean up. We always had to work the drink cart at the club, just like the teens do today. So our parents loved teaching us about our culture and definitely around being together, and we've passed it on to our children.
My mom and dad really liked coming to the club
Yeah.
all the time. So my dad said, listen, instead of you just laying around here on a Sunday, you need to come with us, you know. And so I said, okay. And I'd have to sit in the little room with my dad while the older gentlemen were trying to pass things or do whatever. And I'm like, why am I sitting in here, you know? So my dad finally, he said, listen, if you're going to come with me, you might as well get involved with the club. Maybe get up on board member or something like that. I said, I'll see. So I eventually did. And then I got involved in that. My son was the same way. He would be laying around and I would say, hey, listen, you need to come to the club, maybe even cook chicken with us when we're cooking. That would be a good start for you, you know? And he's like, and get up at 4? Maybe I'll do something else, Dad.
Yeah. I was going to say, you're recruiting your son to get up at 4 a.m.
I
on Sunday,
did.
probably after being out on a Saturday night with his friends.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But he came.
But he came.
He came.
Yeah. I don't know
Absolutely.
what made him come.
But he came.
He did.
Yes.
Now, you were both presidents of this club. Were there any signature moments of your presidencies that you would like to discuss? Any projects or events?
During my presidency, we had the normal activities that we do at the club, the picnics and the New Year's party. But I think the major thing that we did that year in 2007 was we opened up the social room in the back, and it's being used every day now. And so we're proud of that. It's a beautiful room, and it's a place for people to, friends and cousins to get together.
Definitely.
Yeah. During my presidency, I actually worked in St. Augustine at the paper company out there. And they were like, and you're going to be president, And once again, there were certain gentlemen, like Teddy said, there was a gentleman that helped him, but there was some people that did want me to be the president. So we ended up fighting and doing this, and finally they came to their senses. Helped me to become president. So when I was president of that, and I'm working out in St. Augustine, I would come by the building, to see if there's anything there that I needed to be done. I would see tons of sand out there. And you'd think you have to get approval from the president. No. They just did what they needed to do because they knew we had to fix the club up, and that's how they did it. And then eventually, the next year was the 50th anniversary of the club, and I was the chairman of the ceremony for that club, for that part.
Wow.
So it worked out good.
Yeah. Personally speaking, I mean, Alex is, he's much younger than us, but I attended that 50th anniversary. It was a fantastic event, and I can tell you personally, both Ted and Ed have served as mentors for me. Being here as president to past president, so they've both had a tremendous impact on the club. Both different styles of presidency, as you could probably see. Ted, wise, words of wisdom, calm, always, just great words of, wisdom, practical, etc. Ed thinks outside of the box, but great ideas, but both great leaders.
It's a special conversation.
Thanks.
It is, yes. So the question is for both of you. Obviously, you both are married with children and grandchildren. Do you feel a lot of the traditions are the same? And are you fearful that your grandchildren may not know the culture that we have today? You grew up with a lot of culture in your family. And of course, your parents, most especially your mom, carries a great deal of the traditions that we have had that were carried over from Ramallah to today. Do you feel that a lot of those traditions may not carry as time moves on?
You hit a great point, Janice, because yes, many of the traditions are the same, but I feel like we have to work harder to keep the club going, as our children and grandchildren have many, many more options for their leisure time. And we're doing our best to instill in them the culture and traditions that we would like to keep, and we need everyone's help.
Yeah, and we feel like that, with our kids, they became presidents. And so now that they know what they were going through, they're like looking okay at the grandchildren or friends of them and stuff, and telling them, get involved with the club. It's a great thing to do. And I hope that our grandchildren do become something with the club. Mine's a little bit too young to kind of put that into her, but I am putting into her that she needs to be a Chicago Bear fan.
Of course.
So she calls me Papa Bear.
There you go. There you go.
We're going to
Priorities.
instill something into them.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Now, your father, Amo Musa, is no longer with us, but his incredible legacy lives on, and he would be extremely proud of his family. Your mother, Auntie Rose, celebrated her 90th birthday in April. We would be remiss if we did not mention what an incredible matriarch she is to our community. Her journey to America is well documented through the Palestinian Preservation Project and well known throughout our community. But for those who may not know, could you give us a brief description or summary of her journey to this country? And tell us, when you were children, did she share these stories with you? And did your father talk about Ramallah and all the memories?
Well, my mother's journey is very interesting because she left Ramallah in 1948 at the age of 13, and she didn't see her mother for decades.
Wow.
Her father passed away in an airplane crash that same year over Shannon, Ireland, and my mother came by ship with her sisters Nejla and Sarad. They lived in Jacksonville, where they stayed with their older sister, Farida Musa, and my mother and Aunt Sarad then eventually moved to Princeton, New Jersey, and stayed with her older brother, Professor Farhat Ziyada. So until actually they got married. My father left Ramallah at the age of 21 and often talked about the homes they owned in Ramallah, which he called villas. He was really proud of those homes. And the homes were not far from what today is Rookab's Ice Cream. He attended the American University of Beirut for 2 years and finished his pharmacy degree at the University of Florida. So he's a Gator also.
Very good.
He was actually the first pharmacist from Ramallah here in Jacksonville. He was also the first person, one of the first people in Ramallah to have a bicycle. So we have a picture of
No
him on his
kidding.
bike.
I do have a picture of that, and I forgot
you
to
re-
bring it in, but I'll bring it to maybe the club meeting.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're going to need to to post that on the Federation website. They're going to want that.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
a great photo for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Between my mom and dad, mainly my mom and her sisters
Yes.
and her mother, they were all here.
Yes.
And so you heard all kinds of stories.
Oh, for sure.
Some of them we can't tell online here. But they really did have some stories. And my dad was always saying, how they lived in Ramallah, how Ed Bateh over here and Rukab over here and this one over here. And if you look at it now, the way that the areas are, back in the day before everybody started moving and all, you had Ed Bateh at one corner, you had Farhat at this corner, you had Isa over here on this one. So it was kind of building around like they did in Ramallah.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't think about that until later on when you looked at it and you say, wow, that was good.
Very true. If you lived on the north side,
Mm-hmm.
you had a cluster of families. If you lived in Murray Hill, you had a cluster of families.
Mhm.
If you lived in certain areas, absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Wonderful memories. Gentlemen, any final thoughts?
Well, thank you both for having us today. We really owe a debt of gratitude to all the immigrants that came to America from Ramallah. It was a new country, and for many of them, they did not even speak English. So it was they worked hard to give us a better life here. In their infinite wisdom, they established clubs around the country and established a federation and kept the culture and traditions alive. So now the younger generation and our children and grandchildren have to carry the torch, which I'm confident, I think Eddie and I can agree, we're confident they will.
Yeah, and with all the men and women who came and took that journey to America, I mean, it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. And we have everything for them. I mean, that we feel like, they did everything for us. Now we have to do everything for our kids.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Hear Our Story, a podcast dedicated to first-generation Palestinian Americans. Special thanks to the Ramallah American Club of Jacksonville and to the production team of Ed Bateh Farhat, Alex Elias, Janice Farhat, and Chris Varmond. Hear Our Story can be found on all podcast platforms. We look forward to bringing you our next story.